So many black artists have lost their lives. Their careers always appear to be cut tragically short. The narrative often points to gang violence as the cause, but is that the truth? It seems systemic forces within the industry have played a role in setting up these talented individuals, masking orchestrated betrayals and calculated moves as random acts of violence.
Let's talk about the black community. Like, black culture is fed to them through music.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they think the way they think.
For the most part, it's about a school-to-prison pipeline to try to influence them more than their school or parents could.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't matter how gangster you think you are on TV. If they know they bent you over and you know it, you'll never be a problem.
You've been in the music industry.
Yeah, I was VP of a label.
Did you have to deal with anything like that?
To receive the money, it was either like we get in like these robes and have sex with pigs, which something super random. Yeah, like
wait a minute, you have sex with a pig?
Yeah.
Do you think Diddy actually forced people to do stuff?
I don't think he forced anyone, but I do believe after they agreed, he switched up.
Why does like a lot of these rappers like Doja Cat, why do they have all this satanic imagery around them?
With a music video, a lot of artists are told to appear at the set. They get them the wardrobe, they get them designers and everything. They just simply are there. Even if they might question it, they be like, oh, it's edgy, and they might show them some numbers that will show that it sells when they put on demon horns. They'll make it make sense. But in truth, there's no need to do that. Why are kids having to watch Roots? In school, they play that for us in school, and that's Hollywood. So you're telling me you're going to make something that's a Hollywood depiction of reality, and you're going to force that on kids? Now that I'm grown, I see that's propaganda.
Young Scooter was said to have died during a police encounter while attempting to flee in southeast Atlanta. The 911 call, described as a possible swatting incident, prompted the police response that led to Bailey's fatal attempt to evade authorities. Spence claimed she was a victim of abuse, but her allegations were not substantiated, and her call was deemed false by police. It just happened to be his birthday when he died, a date significant to ritualistic sacrifice.
Claims that there were 7 men at this home. She says that she heard 3 shots fired. She even says that the woman was naked and had a baby. As for the fall,
it'd have to be a very hard fall.
something you don't often see.
No, you don't. It's a relatively rare injury to have a femoral artery death. It's only about 10 to 15% of traumas, so it's not very high.
Rapper Young Scooter dead on his 39th birthday in a freak accident while fleeing Atlanta police.
Young Scooter may be a sacrifice.
Damn.
Yeah.
Died on the scene, running from the police. 39 years old, died on his birthday.
Y'all believe that shit?
Some mammy called the police on him. No! I'm just thinking like, yo, a lot of these rappers that signed to other rappers, it seems like it's gonna be some insurance claims put in.
Yeah.
21 Savage got a claim in. Lotto Savage. Sauce Walker got a claim in. Future got a claim in. Nigga, you can't just sit up in the trap 30, 40 years, nigga. That ain't making enough. We're gonna cash you out now.
This is how rappers died. Chino XL, real name Derek Keith Barbosa, signed his first record deal in 1991 when he was 16. He released 4 studio albums, 1 EP, and 2 collaboration albums during his career. He also acted in films and on television shows. On July 28, 2024, he was found dead in his home. On September 27, 2024, his family revealed he took his own life. He was 50 years old.
Drug overdose. A representative for Larry revealed that, at that time, the rapper was reportedly going through withdrawal from a drug addiction, saying, "She came to my house the last 4 days to get clean. She tried her best, and I did everything I could to help her. She tried."
It's a big risk. Like, you could take 1 pill and literally die, like, immediately. Like, I had a homegirl that took a fake pill and she had a heart attack and died, like, immediately. She just had a baby, like, a few months before that. Like, and that happened, like, just like that. So it's really not worth it at the end of the day.
Christopher Cheeks, also known as Chris King, was a rapper from Fontana, California. He emerged in the music scene as a member of Too Much under Chris Stokes' The Ultimate Group label Imprint 3. Cheeks, 32, was fatally shot around 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning while he was with friends. The suspect, Adrian Cameron, is wanted for his murder 46. Chris King was mourned by several celebrities, including Justin Bieber, Trippie Redd, and MGK, after his death 6.
The artist Gangsta Boo admits to being Satan's daughter as she raps Gangsta Boo, the devil's daughter, quick to make your lemons fall, openly admitting who she is serving and what she has chosen to represent. 3-6 Mafia, a creation of Satan. In the same song, Gangsta Boo again admits to being Satan's daughter as she raps, the moon is full, all I see is 666, 3-6 Mafia, the devil's daughter.
I just think that it's a real sad situation, man, to see a young dude like that go over nonsense, over arguing about a basketball game, supposedly.
They were saying at first that it was a dice game, it was Quavo's fault, but at the end of the day, like I said in the last video, I believe that this is another industry offering. There's a song that Quavo and Takeoff are on that was released recently that is called 230, and then we see Takeoff passing at 230. And then there's also photos of Takeoff. They're saying this is one of his last photos that shows Takeoff standing in a crowd, and then there's two women behind him or close by to him. There's one woman to the right of him. She dressed like the devil. She has devil horns on. And then there's another person to the left of him that has black wigs. You guys are also telling me not too long ago that Takeoff made a post on Instagram where he used one of Playboi Carti's songs called Stop Breathing. Yes, there's a possibility that could all have just been a bad move by PNB Rock or some problems that he got himself into. I'm definitely not disagreeing with that. But we also can't deny the fact that it's strange that all these independent artists, they're getting taken out. They're no longer here. Why is it the independent artists or the ones that sign an independent distribution deal?
You know what I think? I think the Empire only signs problematic artists that they know. If we did do it to this person, it won't look like us because they're in that lifestyle and they're always in so much problems and they thug, they're from the street, or if they could do it on their own.
I would agree with you, but the thing is, right now I'm looking at their catalog and they have artists that, like Joji, you know, that's a kid that's a YouTuber. They sign a lot of artists. Their biggest artists are the ones that seem to fall for this. Like King Von, he was a big artist. Mo 3, he was getting there. He was already reaching to a level where he could have eventually hit mainstream. Young Dolph, he was another one that got himself to a level independently, even after when he signed over, I think it was around 2017, he signed with Empire, or 2018, around there. Before then, he was independent, and I feel like Empire is coming to these independent artists, and this is my opinion, this is what I believe. I feel like Empire is coming to these artists, knowing that these are independent artists that are going to be really successful, convincing them to sign with them because they want to be independent, they don't want to sign a deal. So Empire is convincing them, no, you're basically still independent, but we're just giving you the boost, and we're only going to take certain percentage. They lock him into this deal. He has this life insurance policy because he gives them in advance. He has this control over their music now because he has ownership over a percentage of it. And then the artist sadly passes away. I believe something sinister might have happened to Dolph. As I was researching Dolph, I came across a lot of disturbing signs that to me prove he sold his soul to the devil for fame and fortune. The reason I have come to this conclusion is no other than Dolph himself. In Dolph's songs Large Amounts, he clearly confesses to selling his soul. He raps, I got a confession to make. I sold my soul to trap, clearly indicating Dolph knew that he sold his soul for the love of money. Just like we saw with Triple X and Mac Miller, Dolph also rapped on the song, I sold my soul to trap, got my money and got it back. All three of these artists claim in their music that they were going to get their souls back, and all three of them suffered sad endings. In Dolph's song, For Talking to My Scale, he raps these lines that I believe indicate he knew something could have happened to him in the near future. He raps, if I sacrifice myself, will I go to hell? To me, this clearly indicates he was involved in the Freemasonic order. Especially after seeing the video for this song, you can clearly see him doing his best to show his alliance and show us what he did for that money. I don't find it coincidental that this is what his last project was called, nor that he mentioned being sacrificed before his passing. I also don't find it coincidental that this happened to him now in the season we're in the fall, close to the situation that happened with Travis and Alex Baldwin. All these incidents took place in the fall, when the pagans are known to take part in their satanic pagan rituals.
Yeah, you know, once again, it's the Underground Mix coming at you. My name is Shock G. And I'm too motherfucking Pac. Yeah, okay? Now see, D-Flow continues. D-Flow ain't stopped with no motherfucking Sons of the P, okay? Hell no. I might go tonight. I might go tomorrow. I might live another 20 years. God don't bless me. God don't bless me.
Back in 2020, the rapper King Von was one of the hottest new rappers out. His songs were getting tens of millions of plays, and his name was only getting bigger and bigger with each release. Right when Von saw himself taking over hip-hop, things once again would take a turn for the worse. On November 6, 2020, the rapper King Von passed away. A once thriving rapper now became a tragic memory of an era in hip-hop. Besides all three of these guys being rappers, they all had one thing in common. They were all managed by the same person, 100K Track. When YNW Melly got arrested, he was being managed by 100K Track. When Hot Boy was arrested on RICO charges, he was being managed by 100K Track. When King Von was taken out by Quando's people, not only was 100K Track managing King Von, he was with him at the scene. Even the smaller artists that 100K Track signs seem to face the same problems. The artist 30 Deep Grimy, who recently was sentenced to 8 years in prison right as he was starting to pick up steam, was also managed by 100K Track. To me, this stuck out like a sore thumb. Right when all these artists were at their peak, something would happen to them, and coincidentally, they all just so happened to be managed by the same guy. King Von, YNW Melly, and Hot Boy were 100K Track's biggest artists, and honestly, the only ones that were truly successful on his roster. This situation reminded me of the Empire label that I covered a while back. Strangely, several Empire artists passed, and one of them just so happened to be King Von, who signed to Empire Distribution just to be taken out shortly after.
It also appears that the robbery wasn't the true motive of the crime, as it appears the situation might have been a planned hit. There is no way that those men would have known Pop Smoke was in that exact room at that exact time when they broke in, without some type of inside knowledge. From the outside, the most these men could have done was follow Pop Smoke to the house, stake them out to see where he was staying and how many people he was with. The thing is, this would have not led to them knowing what room he was staying in, or if he was even in that room at the moment they broke in. In my opinion, someone at the house might have tipped off those guys at that exact moment and told them to go in through that balcony. We also need to talk about the fact that if it was simply just a robbery, why did they take Pop Smoke's life? Pop Smoke was unarmed and even tried running away after the guys had already taken his Rolex watch. They also didn't even take his diamond-studded chain, any money, or any other valuable belongings, which doesn't make any sense at all. Why leave all this behind if they went in to rob Pop Smoke? It wouldn't make sense financially for 5 guys to commit a crime of this level together to make $5,000 out of it.
You're messing around with Juice WRLD, who in one of his lives long ago, playing around, said he was selling his soul and doing a ritual. He was with G Herbo. I'm not sure if you ever saw that video. Him and G Herbo were at like it looked like a beach, but they had candles set up in a circle. It looked like they were doing a ritual. And he just said that to the camera like nothing. And then if you go through his lyrics, he has times where he mentions selling his soul to the devil. And he mentions his battle with the devil. And also like when he talks about, oh, what's a 27 club? He ain't making it past 21. This is something that he already knew what the music industry really does. You know, it makes you sell out to these people that use you like puppets. They had him flying on a plane with a bunch of illegal things that can land them in prison for long. So they just didn't show that they cared. And you know what's crazy? All the charges were dropped. No one got charged with anything. None of those substances that were on the plane, nobody got charged for those. That's another thing that I found extremely suspicious. Look at it from this perspective. You're Little Bibby, who owns Grade A Entertainment, and you only have one profitable artist at the time, one artist that's paying for everything, paying for your lifestyle, paying for your record label, paying for your expenses. Everything that you got going on is this one artist. Your contract with this one artist is coming to an end. You know that the major record labels are trying to cut you out and go directly to him. What are you gonna do? The best option for you is to get rid of the problem. Getting rid of the problem was getting rid of Juice. He got rid of Juice. Now he has control of the remaining catalog that he already has signed them. The record label that Juice signed was before Juice had really anything going for himself. So he signed this record deal, and it's always going to be in the favor of the record label. So he probably got a terrible percentage. It was most likely a 360 deal. And when it ended, he was due for renegotiation. A record label of Little Bibby size isn't able to offer a superstar like Juice WRLD what he really needs, you know, for him to be satisfied, because now he's making millions of dollars. He needs a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million advance. A label like Little Bibby does not have the capital to do that. They just wouldn't be able to come up with that as an advance for a superstar artist. So what do? You make sure you get rid of him while he's still on your roster, and now you have control of everything prior that he's recorded, which is tons of songs. You get the parents to sign him on for you to continue his legacy and, you know, drop more projects, and that's it. Problem solved.
What killed an up-and-coming Minnesota rapper, 21-year-old Alexis Lynch was found dead on New Year's Day. The medical examiner says that she died from an accidental overdose of fentanyl and alcohol. She had a booming rap career under the stage name Lexi Alija. Police are still investigating.
This is the thing that my lawyer comes back to me with. She said the feds were interested in one thing and one thing only. Because in my head, I'm thinking they're going to want copies of the podcasts that Brick or Luce were on. They're going to want to make sure that there wasn't anything in those podcasts that was edited out. Now, anybody who knows me and No Jumper knows that we really don't like to edit things out. So the only stuff we're editing out is if it's like a 4-alarm fire, like, yo, we need to take this out. So I don't think there's ever been something that Brick or Luce told us that they needed us to edit out. But the one thing that the feds wanted was the cease and desist from Big U to No Jumper, asking us to take down the episode in which Luce Cannon first made the explosive statements that suggested that Big U had previous knowledge of Nipsey Hussle's death. Now, that situation is very much outside of what was mentioned in the indictment. In the indictment, there's nothing about Nipsey, there's nothing about any of that stuff. So this to me is kind of massive because it makes me feel like, oh, the FBI is interested in what Big U's involvement in Nipsey's death might be.
I have spoken on that. It's about greed. You mean greed, envy, same thing I did. I mean, I did that. I was on the other side of, I grew up and I lived on the other side of where PNB Rock was. And we, in our lost mentality, we didn't see that like I see it now as an adult. We in LA, when I go to Chicago, I respect Chicago wholeheartedly. I check in. When I go to Atlanta, I check in. When I go places, I check in. And I don't think nobody is safe.
This is awfully suspicious because in the indictment, Big U was being accused of running a check-and-in scheme, basically extorting celebrities who come to LA, forcing them to pay a fee for protection or get robbed by the Rolling 60s if they choose not to. It looks pretty obvious that Drake could have been behind it. Like I said, who knows if Drake was actually involved in what happened to X, but one thing we do know is that Drake wants people to think that he was behind this passing. The only thing is, after I did an investigation on XXXTentacion last year, I know Drake most likely didn't have anything to do with what happened to X. I believe Drake is trying to take credit for something he didn't even do. I broke down how X rose to fame and what he did to become an overnight star. As unbelievable as it might sound to some, XXXTentacion sold his soul, and the ritual he used to sell his soul was actually recorded. In this jail call, X is heard talking to a friend who gives him a ritual to perform in order to sell his soul and become an overnight star. Cleo, X's mom, admits that her son knew he was going to pass away the day it happened. He knew his death was coming before it took place. You may be asking how he knew that. Well, it was because his death was connected to the very deal he made when he sold his soul. X knew his day was coming because he made a deal with a demon called Hecate, and he never kept his side of the deal. On December 24th, 2012, on Christmas Eve, Capital Steez did the unthinkable when he ended it all after leaping off the roof of the Cinematic Music Group building in New York City. The building belonged to the same record label they had signed earlier that year too. According to reports, sometime during the later hours of December 23rd, Capital Steez made his way to the top of the Cinematic Music Group building in New York City. While up there, he sent a text message to a loved one that read, "I love you." Then at exactly 11:59 p.m., he tweeted the end from his Twitter. Not long after that tweet, he made the leap from the top of the building. He was later found on the floor clutching a Bible. His family, friends, and fans were shocked to say the least, as no one was expecting this to happen. Why would a young rapper who was on his way to becoming a millionaire end it all the same year he signed a major record deal? See, after looking into Capital Steez, I quickly learned that he was an occultist, and at the young age of 19, he was already practicing ritual magic.
Sony, being the artist that I am, at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony. They really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing, and they never thought that this performer, myself, would outthink them. We can't let them get away with what they're trying to do, because I just owe Sony one more album. It's just a box set, really. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent, owning half of Sony. I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it, but the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. And Tommy Mottola is a devil. I'm not supposed to say what I'm gonna say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret.
As you heard for yourself, Michael was exposing Tommy Mottola as an evil man who was trying to destroy his career. What appears to have happened between Sony and Michael is that Sony was trying to force Michael to sell the rest of his ownership of ATV Records, but Michael refused. So in my opinion, Sony built a plan to try and force Michael to sell it. Sony offered Michael a deal, requiring him to release a greatest hits album through their label. Before Michael started exposing Sony, at this time in his career, as hard as it is to believe, it appears he was struggling financially, as Michael was a very big spender and had recently paid a string of settlements, one of those settlements costing him $20 million. So Michael would eventually sign the deal with Sony Records and took the large advance and eventually spent it. When it came down to releasing his album Invincible, the label purposely didn't market it in order for Michael not to sell well, so he wouldn't be able to recoup the advance, leaving him in debt with the label. This basically means that the label lent money to Michael when they signed him, as this is what an advance is. The label is supposed to get their money back from sales of the album, expecting it sells good. But according to Michael, the label didn't provide a strong enough budget for Michael's team to be able to properly promote the album. This was obviously done on purpose to force Michael into more debt in hopes of forcing him to sell his rights of ATV Records to clear his debt. Instead of Michael doing what the label wanted, he chose to instead expose them, calling Tommy Mottola the devil in 2002, who was the head of Sony Music at the time, one of the most powerful men in the industry. Michael even took Sony Records to court, suing them for trying to sabotage his album release. Michael refused to sell the rights to ATV while he was still alive, so many people think Sony made sure he no longer was. Many people to this day believe Michael was set up by Sony, and what happened to him was no accident, but 100% intentional. In my opinion, this appears to be what truly happened. Michael didn't want to sell his ownership of ATV and instead chose to stand up to Sony and expose them for who they really were. He told the world openly that Tommy Mottola was the devil, and I am pretty sure he meant that literally. Tommy was the head of Sony Records, so it's obvious that Tommy Mottola was one of importance in the Masonic Order. Michael appears to have paid the ultimate price for standing up to Sony. Once Michael passed, Sony got what they wanted, buying the ATV ownership from Michael's estate. This appears to be a clear as day example of how the music industry works. In this case, Michael was exposing the industry for his self-gain, as he wanted to protect his wealth, but it still cost him everything.
Many people who were around Pimp C felt that there was something off about his passing. It wasn't adding up to them. Now, if we look back at Pimp C's life, all his problems seem to start right after he made that song with Jay-Z. A song that he didn't even want to do, but his partner Bun B did. Pimp C passed away at the age of 33, which is a very important number to the Masons. His body was also found in a prayer position with candles that have been burnt out. All of this are signs of a ritual, as the 33rd degree is the top degree in the Scottish Rite Masonic system. According to Edgar, the man who took out Pimp C was his own friend Larry Adams, who was also a Freemason. According to Edgar, Larry slipped something inside of Pimp C's drink the night he passed away. He claims that he was told by a reliable source that the night Pimp C was taken out, he wasn't alone. He was told that Pimp C was with a few women and Larry. He claims that at a certain point, Pimp C went to the bathroom, leaving his drink unattended. He then goes on to state that Larry told the girls he was going to play a prank on Pimp C by slipping something in his drink. Larry then laced Pimp's drink, and when he returned to the room, he drank it. And this is when he began to throw up blood all over the bed and then passed away. ODB was at 36 Chamber Studios, a recording studio owned by RZA. While there, out of nowhere, ODB collapsed and was unconscious. When medics arrived, he was pronounced gone at the scene. After the autopsy report came in, it was discovered that the cause of his passing was substance related. Many of his fans, though sad, weren't so surprised, as ODB was known for his substance use. Even though his passing doesn't seem like much of a mystery, to me it is. Don't get me wrong, I know people pass away due to substance issues often, and it's one of the leading causes. However, when you start seeing so many famous celebrities going out the exact same way, it makes you start to question things. Especially when ODB was known to speak too much, exposing things he wasn't supposed to expose. ODB routinely says things that him being in the industry, he shouldn't have said. For example, during a TRL interview, ODB exposed the elite right on television. During this segment of TRL, a fan calls in asking a question about the freedom of the artist.
regarding if they're allowed to speak their minds. The moment this caller was done asking the question, ODB tried to answer, but the host purposely ignores ODB, making another guest answer. Right before the host was switched to taking a new caller, ODB interrupts the host to answer the question. This is when ODB states that the world is afraid of the government. He also stated that the government took out Tupac and Biggie. The story goes on August 25th, Aaliyah boarded a private small plane from the islands of the Bahamas to Florida. She was on the island filming her last music video for her song Rock the Boat. The plane quickly fell after taking off, which claimed everybody on board. This is what we were told, but as I investigated, I discovered the truth is much more sinister. See, Aaliyah did not want to get on that plane. The truth is, she actually said she wasn't getting on. She was given a sleeping pill for a headache she was complaining about and took a nap in the back of her driver's vehicle. Her management had her carried onto the plane while she was still unconscious. It was also noted that the pilot was a new pilot who never flew for the airline before. He was also found to have been under the influence while operating the plane. The plane fell shortly after taking off. To me, this clearly points to a setup. This makes me think, who would benefit from doing this to Aaliyah? Well, besides her record label, the one who was benefiting the most is Robert Kelly. See, Robert Kelly is currently on trial, and his relationships with Aaliyah has been brought up in court. Robert met Aaliyah when she was only 12, after one of her uncles introduced her to him. He quickly took a liking to Aaliyah, and even got her signed to Jive Records. They would quickly begin a relationship and even get married, all before Aaliyah would turn 16. If she was still with us, she would most likely be asked to testify on Robert Kelly, which would ultimately put Robert in prison. If you followed my videos, then you know the red to Freemasons means sacrifice. I do not find it coincidental that a plane she was on would fall after she would be forced on that plane. This was clearly orchestrated. They were never going to give her the option of not getting on that plane. Dame Dash, who was dating Aaliyah, said himself that Aaliyah was a sacrificial lamb.
Did you know that Big L's alleged killer Gerard Woodley appeared on the back cover of his debut album Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous? Big L and Gerard grew up together in Harlem and were both a part of the 139th Street NFL crew, which was notorious for violence. Big L's older brother Big Lee was a shot caller for the NFL crew, and the story goes that while he was in prison, he put a hit out on Gerard Woodley over some unresolved beef. Woodley ended up finding out about the hit and decided to get revenge by shooting Big L 9 times in the face and chest during a drive-by. Some say that L was assassinated because he was in on the hit and was seen by Woodley multiple times with the alleged hitman. On June 24, 2016, Gerard Woodley was shot and killed less than 250 yards away from where Big L met his demise.
These musicians and other influential figures are targeted and sometimes killed or replaced as part of a pervasive, long-standing agenda by dark forces, which include reptilians, Zionists, and the Cabal. This targeting serves multiple purposes related to control, financial gain, and energetic sustenance for these dark entities.
But did you also see there's been these articles written about the CIA's involvement in the creation of gangster rap? That they helped promote and push gangster rap? They had some sort of an involvement in the rock and roll movement of the 1960s in Laurel Canyon. And there's been books written about this. That they have some sort of involvement in promoting these kind of activities, both with rock and roll in the 60s and then gangster rap in the 80s. And they do it to try, I think the idea is they do it to try to make sure that society is always in a state of unrest.
John Holmston, a retired CIA agent, has admitted on national Russian television that the CIA was behind the creation of the 1980s hip-hop scene and financed major hip-hop acts including NWA, Africa Boombata, and Grandmaster Flash in the Furious Five. The government at the time spent, quote, big money, serious money, on this covert operation destined to further division and corrupt the American youth to nihilist, anti-establishment, and anti-American ideologies, he explained in a half-hour interview broadcast on national television. Our mission was to use teenage angst to our advantage and turn Generation X into a decadent, pro-drug, and anti-establishment culture that would create uprisings and further division within society.
And there's a couple of videos out there that some of these famous guys were,
were celebrating and crying at the same time because they got what they wanted. At the particular video that I'm talking about, the guy's celebrating because he got what he wanted, but also they killed his son the day before. So that's how fast it happens for them. So they sacrificed their loved ones to have fame and fortune.
Rappers were purposefully brought into rooms and instructed to create violent, aggressive, dark music. The objective of this manipulation was to fill privately owned prisons with black individuals, thus generating revenue for the dark forces. This agenda also aimed to create fatherless families in black communities, contributing to widespread societal misery.
We see how, let's say, blacks, Native Americans, whoever, have been basically put down. They haven't been given the same economic opportunities. They haven't been given respect. And then there was, I saw a video years ago how they took like these rappers into a room and they said, okay, you guys got to start making violent, aggressive, nasty music. Putting it in my own words. You got to, basically because the prisons are privately owned, you got to get all the black guys to do all this bad stuff so you can fill our prisons. And they were threatened. They were, I think one guy was maybe killed. Because he didn't want to do that. But anyways, they purposefully have created fatherless families in the black communities, and they've done all this stuff on purpose, and it's not right. And I would like to see that rectified, in the future.
It is being rectified, which is why I'm doing the royal records and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And again, these individuals that are doing this, they know the truth. They don't want everybody else to know the truth,
right,
but they know the truth.
Yeah.
So, and it's all going to be rectified. It's all being changed.